Hi, everyone. I am Angela, Energy Intuit. I'm coming to you live today with an initial video for my channel here to let you know who I am, to introduce myself to you, to talk a little bit about the work that I do and the work that you'll continue to experience as you connect with me here on YouTube. So welcome, welcome. Today is Friday, September 6th, 2024. I have been a psychic medium. I used to be an energy healer, a consciousness mentor, teacher of psychic development since early 2011. So I've been doing this work for 13 years. I created a program called the Conscious Psychic Program, which is a hybrid coaching program. So you get one-on-one sessions as well as lots of development circles to participate in with the groups every week in 2012. It's really my pride and joy. It's what I've focused my business around. I do one-on-one readings. You can find those, you can find a scheduler, the rates, and all of that on my website, energyintuit.com. What I wanted to do today was to really introduce myself, talk to you a little bit about who I am, where I've been, where I am, and why it is that I'm coming to you through YouTube today. My guides have had me on hold in terms of working on YouTube for a number of years. I was getting ready to launch my channel more so in 2019, and they actually had me kind of, hold on, pull back. They encouraged me to wait. A lot of that for me was tied to my own personal development as a consciousness mentor, as an open channel. I do trance channeling. I will be trance channeling in the future on this channel. I'm not sure how much I'll do it live versus bringing to you the channeled messages when I've channeled off camera. So I'm still working some of those details out with my guides. But I've been doing all of those things, and my guides really wanted me to wait before I went live here on YouTube in a way that I can be of service to the whole planet in terms of who tunes into YouTube for spiritual guidance, for spiritual education and such. So my passion and my mission, and I've known this since I landed in psychic school in 2010 in Manhattan, is to connect as many people to their intuition as possible. I see our intuition and our psychic skills as synonymous. We are all psychic, is my belief. We are all born with a pineal gland, pituitary gland, and a physical body. Our physical body is our best divining rod. Therefore, we're all psychic and we're all able to figure out how we are psychic and then grow those skills. I liken it to musical ability and sports ability. We all know people that were born geniuses with music and sports, and we all know many people, perhaps ourselves, who have had to work really hard to eke out a tune or throw a ball or catch a ball. So psychic skills are very similar. They're on a spectrum, just like that. And finding out, connecting to our intuition and how we perceive psychically is really the first step. And then we're able to kind of work with those skills and develop from there. More often than not, our psychic skills work all together. So we could talk about clairvoyance and clairaudience, psychic seeing, psychic hearing, being an empath. I'm a big one of those. We can talk about them sort of in those silos of the skills individually. And I will say to you, I'll remind you that our psychic skills generally come through as a constellation of all of our psychic skills. So we might have a knowing, we might feel an emotion, we might see a flash of a vision, we might hear something too. And all of those skills put together offer us a message and how we can connect with higher dimensional energies through our consciousness, through our fields, through our psychic skills. So they often come through as a constellation or a little bit of a symphony of our skills working together to bring through messages. One of the hardest steps for beginning psychics, or when people know that they're sensitive and psychic and want to develop, is understanding kind of where and how to dive in and engage. I recommend that people sit with a yes or no question and answer process. So whether you use your body as a pendulum, whether you use a pendulum, whether you use dice and decide that, even will be yes and odd will be no, and roll that for your yes or no questions, or flip cards like that, or whether you are tuned in enough with either your clairaudience to hear a yes or a no in response to your yes or no questions, or if you've got your clairvoyance on, you could ask for a Y or an N on your mind's eye as a way to receive yes and no Answers. That is the best place to start because once you start to work at that process and understand how yeses and nos come through for you, then you can actually dialogue with the higher dimensions and the higher realms and the psychic messages that would like to come through. A little bit more about my story. I come from a very conservative field. I worked in healthcare sales and marketing. Before I stepped into this work, I asked for this work. I was working on manifesting this work when I was in my 20s and 30s and really trying to hone what I wanted to do and how I wanted to show up in the world. I kept finding that the jobs and things that I found myself in just didn't quite feel right. And I knew there was something bigger for me. So through a lot of prayer and intention and asking and meditating and exploring and learning and working with shamans and working, taking Tibetan Buddhist vows in 2006, all of these things really kind of prepared me to step into this realm in 2010 when I landed in psychic school. And then, you know, my business opened in 11. I created the Conscious Psychic program in 12, and I've really just gone from there. So I have a depth of experience to draw from. I like to teach from my experiences. I've had many, many spiritually transformative experiences that you'll hear me talk about in the future here. I've begun to write about them on Substack as well, and lots of stories. So I'm happy to meet you in this space and share stories as they support you, right? I'm not interested in really just having this be, completely the Angela channel. I'm here to be of service to you all in the world in terms of how I can support you all in raising your frequencies and evolving psychically. It's for your empowerment that I do my work, right? I am here to be of service to humans so that they can remember, hone, cultivate their psychic skills so that they can then use them in this lifetime. I see them as a bit of a lost set of skills. We all have access to them for all of the reasons that we know happen in the world and where we sit historically and culturally. They used to not be popular and they used to not be acknowledged, right? In many, many decades and many, many centuries past, etc. And in many cultures, they have been revered. So there's been a real uptick, as you all know, in this spiritual expansion because our planet is raising its consciousness and we as a humanity are raising our consciousness together. That is one person at a time through each of our psychic skills, through each of our empowerment, through each of our souls, through us connecting to our deeper selves, our higher selves, our soul. And I see our psychic skills as the language and the pathways and the vehicles to navigate all of these unseen realms. So I lump all of the unseen realms into one bucket, often when I talk and teach on these things. The unseen realms are those things that are not in the 3D that we can see and touch and knock on. Everything is energy, everything is always vibrating, everything is about frequency. So when we connect to the unseen realms, staying open, yet having some guardrails to help us is helpful. Most people, as they connect to spirit, are not going to necessarily find themselves in a hard to navigate or dicey situation. And I teach very basic, foundational, basic psychic skills for that reason, so that people can feel as though they're walking with a set of tools that they can utilize when they need to, if they're in a meditation, if they're walking through the world in a really positive state, maybe outside in nature, and they feel as though they're connecting to the spirit of the trees or some fairies or elementals around them. If you feel like you have a visitation from an angel, awakened in the middle of the night, any of those kinds of situations, when we apply basic grounded skills to those, we can engage and dialogue. I want to always offer the caveat that you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with the energies that you're dialoguing with. Your internal compass will always be your best guidance system. So if you feel uncomfortable engaging with an energy that seems to be coming towards you, don't engage with it. Disallow it. Tell it to leave. You have that authority. You have that capacity to be directive. That is your right. That is an expression of your free will. Just as if you would like help from the angels or guides or the unseens, you merely ask and then you listen to how they might come through. I say listen very loosely, right? Listening through all of our psychic pathways is my highest recommendation. When I was a child, when I was 7, I grew up on the West Coast. I live on the East Coast of the US now. I grew up on the West Coast and had very cool parents. I was living in California and I was hit by a car when I was 7 years old and had an out-of-body experience. I never called it an NDE because I didn't go towards the light. I was out of the body. I can tell you what it was like to be floating 30 feet above my body and seeing my body laying on the ground and feeling fear. And then as soon as I felt fear is when I went back in my body. And I don't remember that because I had been hit by a car and I would have remembered pain. But I was in and out of my body for a number of weeks. And I can tell you what it looked like to have the neighbor standing around on the neighbor's yard with, around my body, the EMTs there, closing the doors on the ambulance, what it was like sort of being out of body in the hospital. That was in the 70s. It was at a time when we had long hospital stays. So I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, intensive care for a week, and on the children's ward for a week. So, you know, old time psychic teachings and spiritualist teachings would say that that's how we become psychic, is to have a physical trauma and have it sort of rattled out of us. I didn't know that I was psychic until I landed in psychic school in 2010. So, in spite of having that out of body experience and remembering flying around the hospital room and being in and out of my body and such, I never went, so much to, see a light, see a being, etc. So I've had an out of body experience, and I've come to learn that having a physical trauma is not necessary to opening up your psychic skills. Back in the 70s, the 1970s, it might have been more so, because here we are 50 some years later, and 50 years later, and we all know, we all really understand now and are beginning to understand that we all have psychic skills and we all have access to the unseen realms. And I'd like to share that bit about my past, because sometimes people say there's something that you went through when you were a kid, right? People tend to pick up things psychically from others so often. So I like to be transparent and share things like that as part of my history. So it wasn't until 2010, when I was in psychic school, that I realized that I was psychic. At that time, when I was sitting at Holistic Studies Institute, which is run by the Spiritualist Church of New York in Manhattan, Chelsea specifically, that I realized that I had been claircognizant, clear knowing, and empathic my whole life. I was sort of overwhelmed with a flood of, oh my gosh, this is why I cry all the time. I was sort of the emotional barometer of the family, so I gained a lot of understanding by landing in psychic school and then cultivating my gifts to understand how I had been perceiving my whole life, how I hadn't seen it as psychic, how I had been gaslighting myself for a long time throughout my life, not believing what I sensed and knew and felt. And so my work comes directly from those experiences of mine, and that I don't want people to live without the access to their skills in ways that leaves them feeling disempowered. So I'm here for the empowerment. I'm here for your empowerment. I'm here to bring you content that supports your empowerment and your evolutionary path. So I look forward to meeting you all here. My aim is to go live as frequently as I can. I'm not an editing person. I don't plan to jump on and edit my videos. I'm going to be showing up in an authentic way, in the ways that I talk with you all and talk to you all. And I would love to receive messages or comments about content topics that you would like. I've got a whole list of things that I will be uploading videos on here in the near future and showing up live for. And I'm always open to anything that you would like to hear about. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this intro video on myself, Angela, Energy Intuit. I am happy to connect, and I look forward to connecting more. In love and knowing, I will now sign off. Thank you.